Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now today, a question from a viewer which led me to do some thinking about some wardrobe options, which a route I've never taken actually, but it's one I'm interested in following in the future. So the question comes from a man called John, who says, for reasons that I cannot explain, I always wanted to buy a Nehru jacket. Maybe it was the influence of the Beatles in the 1960s, but I recently came across a brand new Nehru jacket in a charity shop. It was made by an Italian company, beautifully made in fact, and I purchased it for the princely sum of £5 British. I likely purchased it so cheaply as, like me, nobody has any idea of what to wear it with, which is such a shame as it fits like a glove and looks like $1 million. So Ash, over to you. How do I wear my new Nehru jacket? Well, firstly, sir, congratulations on having the confidence to buy something which is a little bit different, because this is how we evolve within our sartorial journey towards Chap Nirvana. Sometimes you've got to take a chance, and for £5 it's not much of a risk, is it anyway? So you've bought a Nehru jacket. Let us just for a moment consolidate our knowledge in what we think we know a Nehru jacket is. Essentially, a Nehru jacket is a jacket which was named after the historic first Prime Minister of India, a man called Jawaharlal Nehru, who was the first elected Prime Minister of India after its severance of being part of the British Empire in 1947, I'm going to say. My history might be called into question there. Now, the Nehru jacket, which was his predominant clothing of choice, is essentially a tailored hip-length jacket, which is distinctive by the fact that it often, or it always should have, a stand-up collar, which is often referred to as a mandarin collar. And in that sort of styling, that is what we know today as the Nehru jacket. It offers the wearer quite a lean and slimline look, because it's single-breasted, buttons down the front, with that stand-up collar, hip length. They actually cut quite a dash. I rather like them. And in many ways, the jacket has transcended its original origins in the East. You know, I think the Nehru jacket is widely recognized, maybe not so often seen in standard attire these days. Now, the history of the Nehru jacket traces its history back to India, of course, where it was mostly worn by the nobility. And typically the original Nehru, or they weren't called Nehru jackets then obviously, but the jacket was quite long, maybe to the knee length, and it was, as I say, worn by nobility and the upper classes, often made of high quality materials, and it would have singled out the more wealthy people in society and the people with status. However, Jawaharlal Nehru sort of popularized a more modern version of that garment, making it shorter up to the hip length, making it a little bit more easily wearable. And I think in so doing, he set in many people in the Western world's idea of styling within the Eastern world. So very much people think of that style as that part of the world, India and the subcontinent. And it became something of a signature look for the Prime Minister, Nehru, and hence we use his name when we refer to that style of jacket in the modern world. And certainly it was associated with him from the mid-20th century onwards. Now, it really sort of gripped or became globally recognized, I think, from that mid-20th century point onwards, and it really was catapulted to most people's awareness, and as John suggested in his question, by bands like the Beatles and also the American band the Monkees, who were frequently seen wearing the Nehru style jacket. And I think, as is famously known, many of those band members had a bit of a fascination with the Indian subcontinent, its cultures, its meditation practices, and they kind of brought that into the public awareness here in the UK. So we certainly saw that in the 60s and 70s, where people were choosing to wear that style of jacket as a bit of a counterculture. Because if we imagine the Western equivalent of that jacket would be maybe a single-breasted suit or a three-piece suit. The Nehru jacket suit became really the Eastern version of that, and that counterculture, slightly left-of-centre dressers who wanted to make a statement, they would have gone down that route for that choice. Now, in modern-day styling, I think the Nehru jacket remains popular. It's often seen in weddings here in the UK. If people want to look a bit different from the more traditional morning suit or whatever the standard lounge suit, people will choose that. But of course, when we think of that style of jacket, we do think of South Asia and the Eastern world as where it originates from. And some people who like that styling will certainly choose that path. I would say it is not that common in standard clothing choices here in the UK. You will rarely see somebody who chooses a Nehru suit over a 2 or 3 piece suit in the business world. Now, that is not to say it cannot be worn in that environment. I am just highlighting the fact that it is less common. Because if you are, shall we say, somebody who works within a business environment, maybe the corporate world, and you want to be seen as a little avant-garde, a little bit, as I say, left of centre, and the 3-piece suit or the 2-piece suit is what everybody else is wearing. If you were a brave person, and I do emphasise brave because this is a courageous choice, you could choose to go with a Nehru style suit. So, basically you would wear the Nehru jacket with matching trousers, and it could be seen, as I say, something as, a slightly different business apparel. Particularly if you choose one in a sort of neutral colour, so shall we say navy or charcoal grey with matching trousers made of the same material, you could do it. You could pull it off. You're going to look very different, but then that may be what you're looking for, a little touch of sprezzatura in life. You want to be a little bit different from all of the clones who are wearing navy and charcoal grey 2-piece single-breasted notch lapel suits. It is a choice. It's a suit alternative. The Nehru jacket, shall we step away from the suit now, is something you can definitely employ in the casual world, and this is where you will see it mostly, I think, in the modern world, particularly if we step away from the sort of formal look and we choose it in materials which are more casual in nature. So, woolen, for instance, if we're looking for a more of a winter look. You can have linen, of course, if it's summertime, and blends thereof if you want to wear something in quite, a lighter world. It can be layered as well. So even though the mandarin collar does right up to the neck, you don't have to have it done right up to the neck. You can layer it with maybe a turtleneck sweater, a roll neck sweater underneath, or maybe just a white shirt. It's something which can be worn in that sort of scenario. If you want to bring it more in line with the more Western world, you could wear it with a collar and tie. Or you can add little sartorial touches, like if it has a breast pocket, you can wear it with a pocket square. You see what I mean? You're taking something which is Eastern in nature and you're Westernizing it by adding the more Western sartorial touches to it. You can make it your own if it is a choice which you wish to make, to take that garment on a journey with you. And the material, well, this is, as I say, woolen, gives you some choices, but I'm seeing garments these days, Nehru jackets, made of tweed. And this is very interesting. Look, we'll talk about that in a moment. I think where the Nehru jacket really finds its stride is in that fusion style there, as I say, because we're Westernizing it, we're making it look more akin to what we will see ordinarily, but with that slightly Eastern approach to it. So the fusion element, the sprezzatura touch, is where I think it works. So my thoughts on the Nehru jacket, well, I've never owned one and I don't own one now. But that's not to say that I wouldn't choose to own one in the future, because I've recently started to see the Nehru jacket more and more. I mean, only yesterday I was at home and I've been having a little bit of a James Bond revival at home. And I found myself watching the movie Octopussy. Now that movie is predominantly set in India. Now, it's not explicitly said as India, but it's predominantly set in India. And the main antagonist in the movie, Kemal Khan, the bad guy, he's obviously of Indian descent, or portrayed as such, and he is seen wearing a Nehru-style jacket throughout the movie, as is his main henchman, who is a Sikh, wears a turban, but he wears it with a well-styled, well-tailored Nehru jacket. So, you know, he's obviously set up as this Eastern tough guy, but it looks so streamlined because there's less sort of adornments with like lapels and things like that. It makes it look more streamlined. It brings the emphasis upon the wearer, the body more. And I think it works rather well. And it looks good in that movie. I did like it indeed. I did like the look. And also, I was in London maybe a month ago at a polo event in Peckham, in Hurlingham. And I was in a corporate box waiting for the polo to start. And in the sort of pre-match build-up to the polo, one of the team captains came in to brief the corporate guests on the rules of polo and just to talk about, you know, the game itself so that we could have greater enjoyment of our experience. And he was wearing a Nehru-style tweed vest, so a sleeveless jacket in effect, over his polo clothing, his outfit. And I actually nudged my wife and said, God, that's a lovely, you know, sort of body warmer he's wearing. And it really worked exceptionally well when worn in that sort of casual environment, over sporting clothes, but with the Nehru style knocked out in tweed. It was a superb look, and you know, it really caught my eye. And I've done a little bit of research since then, and in order to answer this question sort of as best I could. And I've noticed that many clothing manufacturers these days are offering Nehru jackets and Nehru vests, body warmers, sleeveless jackets in tweed. And for me, I could easily imagine myself owning such a garment, because in this increasingly casual world, where perhaps a sports jacket might be deemed to be too formal for quite a casual situation, the Nehru style jacket, made in tweed, because it doesn't feature any decoration, you know, as I say, lapels and things like that, it offers a more cut back, streamlined appearance, which I think works well in a casual setting. And I could easily imagine myself dressing like that. So what I would say to John and others out there who are perhaps looking for something a little different from what everybody else is wearing, consider the Nehru jacket, maybe in tweed. It could easily fit into my wardrobe. And I'm sure if that's the case, and I often wear sort of utility garments, you know, take away the sort of the chore jacket I'm wearing now, replace it with a tweed Nehru jacket, I think it would look really good. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed my jaunt through the world of Nehru garmentry. If you have, thumbs up, subscribe for more, drop me a comment, drop me a question, either by email or in the comments section. And if you'd like to support the channel, you could buy me a coffee, or you could even become a patron. I make extra videos for my patrons each and every week. So until the next time, take care, and I'll see you again very soon.